Here are a few currency pairs I have on watch for this week, starting October 12th, 2020. Not a whole lot going on this week, but there are some clean pairs. Most of them are yen pairs that I'm going to be keeping an eye out on, so I wanted to go over those. The first one is Aussie Yen. You can see here on the daily chart, it has been trending up and broke this. Let me enlarge that. Again, this is the daily chart. It has been trending up and formed a nice trend line, and it broke that and the 50 EMA. And last week we were waiting for a pullback to this area, and I did not get in this short. I actually got into a pair that was correlated with it short, this Aussie CAD. I got in, it had a little bit better deceleration with these tweezer tops, and that position is still running in a little bit of profit, about 2%. So we'll see if that can make it down to the lows. But back to Aussie Yen, which I'm watching for this week. Like I said, I did not get in it here, which I believe I covered in last week's video. I did not go short. And you can see it pulled back further and is now at this horizontal support and resistance line, acting as resistance. You can see it's got some pretty good touches, and today it is already rejecting it. And on the lower time frames, I'm going to want to wait to see a little bit more development, a little more trend change on those lower time frames, the 4 hour and the 1 hour. But keep an eye on this for sure for the next 24 hours to see what happens. Back to the multi time frame layout, you can see the weekly chart is the negative. It is acting, the 50 EMA on the weekly is acting as dynamic support and resistance. It broke it and it's respecting it. So the weekly chart's definitely one of the negatives. The monthly over here is looking very clean, just like a lot of pairs right now that I'm going to show you, but looking good for a short play with plenty of room. The next pair is Swiss yen, and again the same thing. The negative here is the weekly. The monthly is looking good. I'll enlarge the daily. On this pair, there's not as good horizontal support and resistance in this area. That is another negative, but this trend is a healthier looking trend on the daily, and it broke down and formed a lower low, lower high, lower low. And so I'm really just waiting to see the deceleration on this to see if it's going to form another lower high, and watching the lower time frames for confirmed trend changes on the lower time frames, because right now this pullback is going to be a uptrend on the lower time frames. So on the lower time frames, you want to see a trend change to a downtrend, and so that's what I'm going to wait for on Swiss yen. Aussie yen to me is a little cleaner, but this is definitely a setup that could happen soon. The next yen pair is Euro yen, and as you can see, it's very similar to the other two. Good monthly, weekly is in negative, but it could be forming the first lower high on the weekly. We don't know. It will take time to tell, but back here on the daily, again, same thing as the other two yen pairs, trended up, broke this trend line, and the 50 EMA, which was acting as somewhat dynamic support, holding price, price broke it, then it was holding price, price broke it, and now it's not being respected. So these could be, if y'all are familiar with A, B, C pullbacks, this is not super clean. Let me go, well, I'm on the IDC data. The FXCM data is probably a little cleaner, but you can see it broke down, and this could be a B, C pullback, and it could be forming a lower, another lower high, and there is a little bit of horizontal support and resistance in this area. I don't have it marked in, but there is some there. So again, just like the first two pairs, watching those lower time frames and watching the trends on the lower time frames to see if this is going to have a strong enough push to the downside on the lower time frames to warrant a short. So those are the yen pairs I'm watching. The other clean setup that I'm watching is Eurocad, and you can see on the monthly and weekly it's at some decent levels. It's been consolidating. This is not a very clean chart. Pretty nasty up here on the weekly, but a lot of times in consolidation, if it forms some structure, again, this is not super clean, but I'm just keeping an eye out on it to see what it ends up doing, because it's breaking out of this triangle right here, and I'm going to see what happens, see if it can ideally come down a little lower and then pull back. So it could take some days to develop, but it could happen this week. So if it keeps coming down and pulls back, decelerates, and the lower time frames are looking good, this could be a short opportunity given the there's some decent room on the weekly and monthly charts to come down for a short for a good risk reward. So not super excited about a lot of these setups, but if they present good entries on the lower time frames and the risk reward is there and they look clean at the time of entries, these are definitely ones to watch. So I hope that helps. That's it for this week on this week's Pairs on Watch. If y'all have any questions or pairs y'all are watching that you want me to give my input, or I could even do a video on the charts and tell y'all what I am seeing, then just comment below and I'll be happy to help.